Hey YouTubers, it's me, Lonnie Clark, Nuts for Art. I'm going to take my glasses off while I'm not screen sharing. But I know it's been a really long time since, it feels like it anyway, since I've made a video. And I want to thank you for watching my channel. And I want to thank all my diehard subscribers who keep coming back here. And I wanted to give a shout out to Thomas Ackerman. I saw his video today that said he admires people who don't get any views, who keep doing the videos. And he mentioned my name, which is true. I hardly get many videos, but I do feel compelled to keep putting them out. So, boink, here I am again. This video is about the Santa Susana fire, the so-called Woolsey fire. Let me show you this. This had my hair standing up on end. I was talking to Libby Halevi the other day, and she said, you know, the one thing about this, these the Woolsey fire is that all the evidence for the people that are suing the government over the being contaminated and not being told that they've been contaminated, all their evidence has just gone up in smoke. I'm going to screen share. I cannot stand the sight of these glasses. It's just driving me crazy. There we are. Let's go here. And check out this. This is the story. Let me see. Let me go back here and say share to everyone. Okay, I think that gives everyone the full view. And then this is the story that got me started. No health risks from Woolsey fire that burned nuclear cleanup site, state officials say. And this is written in the LA Times by Tony Barboza, November 12th, 2018. And listen to his compliance in this story and the complete. This is why we have a disaster going on in the nuclear industry, because of so-called journalists like Tony Barboza. He is a reporter that covers air quality and the environment that focus on Southern California. He has been on staff since 2006, a graduate of Pomona College. I went to Pomona College a million years ago. That was part of my 12 credits. It transferred to the University of Oregon, and completed a Ted Scripps Fellowship in Environmental Journalism in the University of Colorado, where they no doubt right now are attempting to frack in the Rocky Flats. Let's just listen to what this guy has barfed back out. I couldn't believe that somebody would actually comply and write this. State regulators, I'm going to take my glasses off and just get close. You guys can't see me get close because I'm sharing. State regulators and outside experts are tamping down concerns from advocacy groups about the Woolsey fire, which burned part of the Santa Susana Field Laboratory nuclear cleanup site, saying it likely posed no risk to the public beyond what is normal for wildfire smoke. The State Department of Toxic Substances Control, which oversees a long-delayed cleanup of the former rocket engineering testing and nuclear research facility, you notice he left out the site of the very first nuclear meltdown that ever happened in the United States. In the Simi Hills, near Chatsworth in Simi Valley, said that fire officials believe that the blaze did not present any risks other than those normally presented in a wildfire situation. There's my little mouse. A department statement issued at 1:30 a.m. Friday, hours after the fire burned through the area, said state scientists and toxicologists, quote, do not believe the fire has caused any releases of hazardous materials that would pose a risk to people exposed to the smoke, unquote. They do not believe. Kai Vitter, a professor of nuclear engineering at UC Berkeley, said the potential danger of any radioactive materials spread into the air by the fire would be outweighed by the health effects of smoke and particulates. These smoke and particulates are part of the radioactive material, you dumb. Oh my God. Although there is a possibility that radioactive materials, accounted for or not, could be dispersed through the fire and the smoke plume, the risk for health effects due to radiation is expected to be small. You know why? Because 1/16 millionth of a gram of plutonium lodged in your lungs is enough to give you cancer. That's a very small amount. Highly probable that it will be spewed around in this fire, but still a very small amount. But those assurances have not tempered concerns by watchdog groups and environmentalists who worry the blaze spread radioactive material, carcinogens, and other contaminants present at the site from decades of rocket engine testing, chemical toxic spills, and a partial nuclear meltdown in 1959. It was not partial, it was complete, you dumb. Wow. You know what? It's really hard for me not to cuss. The Woolsey fire likely released and spread radiological and chemical contamination that was in SSFL soil and vegetation via smoke and ash, said Dr. Bob Dodge, president for Physicians for Social Responsibility, Los Angeles. He was interviewed last week by Libby Halevi. Community members and advocacy groups have long criticized state and federal authorities for moving slowly and failing to clean the 2,850-acre site once known as Rocketdyne. In 2007, the State Department of Toxic Substances Control signed a consent order under which Boeing, NASA, and the Department of Energy were supposed to clean up the site by 2017. There are plans to demolish buildings and remediate contaminated soil and groundwater, but more than a decade later, the cleanup has not begun. The cleanup has not begun. Do you understand what that sentence said? They signed contracts and a consent order. We're spending money and they're not doing jack. The Department of Toxic Substances Controls, in the statement late Monday, that its staff accessed the site Saturday morning to assess the damage and confirm that the SSFL facility that previously handled radioactive and hazardous materials were not affected by the fire. Lie. That is an outright lie. Listen to what happened in this next story. Over the weekend, our multi agency team took measures of radiation and hazardous compounds, both on the site and in the surrounding community, the department said. Listen to this double talk. The result from this initial round of testing showed no radiation levels above background levels and no elevated levels of hazardous compounds other than those normally present after a wildfire. The state said it would conduct additional soil and air testing over the next several days. But out of an abundance of caution, a spokeswoman for Boeing, which is responsible for a portion of the site, said in an email Monday that a preliminary estimate shows that over half of the Boeing property at Santa Susana was burned. However, these assessments indicated no major structures were damaged. That's because there are none. There was a fucking nuclear meltdown, you dumb ass. They burned down a long time ago. You guys should see. We're going to see pictures of this site. A spokeswoman for the South Coast Air Quality Management District said it had distributed dust masks, the house suite of them, dust masks to some residents downwind of the fires, but did not conduct any special monitoring of air contaminants around the Santa Susana facility. Why should they? There's just highly radioactive contaminants. That agency referred questions to the State Toxics Department and the neighboring Ventura County Air Pollution Control District. The EPA was also referred questions to the Toxics Department. Watchdog groups, meanwhile, called for greater transparency and accused authorities of understating the risk to the public. There should be immediate radioactive and chemical monitoring, said Dan Hirsch, president of the Committee to Bridge the Gap, which has monitored nuclear safety at the site for decades. This is one of the most contaminated sites in the country with large amounts of radioactive material. And they are telling us that this poses no risk. Watch this. This story was written by Joan Trossman and Michael Collins, August 24th, 2009. 50 years after America's worst nuclear meltdown, human error helped worsen a nuclear meltdown just outside Los Angeles, and now human inertia have stymied the radioactive cleanup for half a century. For release Saturday, a.m., August 29th, 1959, Canoga Park, California. Wow. I wonder if I even expose my own children. I used to live very near Canoga Park. During an inspection of fuel elements on July 26th at sodium reactor experiment operated for the Atomic Energy Commission at Santa Susana, California by Atomics International, a division of North American Aviation, a parted fuel element was observed. A parted fuel element. The fuel element damage is not an indication of unsafe reactor conditions. No release of radioactive material to the plant or its environs occurred, and operating personnel were not exposed in harmful conditions. In each case, all 7 tubes of the fuel element remained in the core. This fuel loading, near the end of its useful life cycle, was scheduled to be removed in the near future. Unquote. Listen to this. This press release, issued 5 weeks after the end of the United States' worst nuclear meltdown, was the public's first notification that something unusual happened up on, quote, the Hill. Holy fuck-ma-bully. They used to call it The Hill, and now what's one of the most major publications in the country called? The Hill. This is the biggest motherfucking mind fuck I've ever heard of in my entire life. Every fucking nuclear waste site is like the worst nuclear waste site in the world. Everybody who lives around it says this is the most contaminated worst site in our country. What have I been saying about Hanford? These people here, holy crap. We have just been completely fucking literally worse than sold down the river. Okay, let's get back to this. For the next 20 years, it remained the only public notification about the accident at Santa Susana Field Laboratory, SSFL, that's what they call it, SSFL, on a mountaintop in California's eastern Ventura County on the border with the San Fernando Valley. For 20 years, we didn't know about it until 1979. In fact, from July 12th through July 26, 1959, an unknown amount of radioactive gases were intentionally vented to prevent the sodium reactor experiment from overheating and experimenting. So listen to this. July 12th through July 26th, 14 days, 2 full weeks, they allowed radioactive gases to intentionally vent. Unlike most conventional reactors that circulate water to be heated by the fuel rods in the core in order to turn steam turbines, the SRE used sodium because it could operate under lower pressure. Pure sodium, not to be confused with table salt or sodium chloride, was a risky metal to use since it catches fire when exposed to air and explodes when mixed with water. What does it look like right now, you guys, in the Southern California fires? It looks like something exploded and caught fire. And whenever the water goes on it, what happens? It looks like it explodes. We see these big, huge plumes. They're throwing water on it. What is happening? Due to the experimental nature of the SRE, it was built without a containment structure, the distinctive large dome associated with nuclear power plants, so that any radiation vented hot out over the San Fernando Valley, which the city of Los Angeles was busily annexing. What exactly vented remains in contention. Yeah, we know exactly. At least pure sodium. At least. And right now, what's happening to the Los Angeles forests? They are exploding. They are catching fire when mixed with water. This is bullshit. We know there was a fuel meltdown, said William Taylor, the current spokesman for the U.S. Department of Energy. We don't know how much radiation or if any was released. Fuck you. Yes, we do. We know there was radiation released. We don't know how much, but we know there was some. According to an analysis of a 5-year study by a panel of independent scientists convened years after the incident, the SRE accident spilled out up to 459 times the amount of radiation released during the 1979 meltdown at 3 Mile Island. And they are telling us right now that this fire did not release anything toxic or harmful to the general public. They can go fuck themselves. I'm sorry I'm cussing, but they can just go fuck off. 50 years later, the contaminated site has to be cleaned up. Now, this is written in 2009, folks. Although this month, two federal agencies promised to plow ahead with the site's current owner, Boeing. And in March, oh, what did Boeing say? No health risk. What did Boeing say? A spokesman for Boeing said it is responsible for a portion of the site, said preliminary estimates show that over half of the Boeing property at Santa Susana was burned. However, these assessments indicated no major structures were damaged because they didn't have any. Wow, these people are evil. Evil, evil. And in March, the Department of Energy provided $38.3 million in funds to complete the radiological survey of Area 4 as part of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Unlike the then remote hilltop it once was, the beautiful remote hilltop it once was, now more than 500,000 people live within 10 miles of the hill, and downtown Los Angeles is 30 miles away. This is a crime for them to lie about it, folks. The race to conquer the atom. The Santa Susana SF The Santa Susana Field Laboratory was built on 2,850 acres in the mid 1940s. This is when the Nazis fucking destroyed America. A portion of the facility was dedicated to the nuclear research, while other portions were marked to develop rocket engines such as the Delta II. The Federal Atomic Energy Commission, which is now the NRC, and the Private Atomics International chose the land high on the hills above the farthest end of the West San Fernando Valley, precisely because the work could be dangerous and the population sparse. Well, what about the downward flow of water, you dumbasses? Oh my God. These people are just completely, just beyond mental cases. The site was owned by Atomics International, a division of North American Aviation. It was merged into Rocketdyne, which Boeing acquired when it bought Rockwell International in 1996. 4 years ago, United Technologies bought the Rocketdyne unit from Boeing, but Boeing kept the contaminated site. Let me see what that says in a new tab. Santa Susana hosted other sensitive projects, which in turn left their more which left in turn their own more public toxic legacies. What? Which in turn left their own more public toxic legacies. Oh my God, you guys, I can barely say that, but you're reading it along with me, so I don't have to say it right. Three other main areas of the lab were devoted to rocket testing, which polluted the land and groundwater with the toxic rocket fuel oxidizer perchlorate, 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 and the engine solvent trichloroethylene. Perchlorate has been found in water wells circling the site adjacent to Simi Valley. Tell me that is not going up in smoke. There are various estimates about the amount of TCE in Rocketdyne's groundwater from tens of thousands of rocket test labs. Boeing's groundwater remediation system, which consists of air stripping towers that allow the TCE to evaporate into the open air, removed 10 gallons of toxic goo from the water annually. Air stripping. So it allows it to evaporate, but what happens when it evaporates? The hell? Since acquiring our site in 1996, Boeing has made significant progress in our cleanup efforts, said spokesperson Kamara Sams, who said recently, although the company turned off, listen to this, the company turned off the water purifying system in 2001. Meanwhile, the SRE was but one of 10 nuclear reactors at the site, plus a hot lab to cut apart and work on nuclear fuel for Santa Susana Department of Energy and the Atomic Energy Commission facilities from around the country. The site also hosted a plutonium fabrication fuel facility, which Dan Hirsch, president of the nonprofit anti-nuclear group, the Committee to Bridge the Gap, calls perhaps the most dangerous facility they had on the property. And you're telling me that this fire did not release plutonium into the air. These lying rat murderers. Hirsch, who had been a key figure in investigating and publicizing the 1959 nuclear accident, said there had also been serious accidents in at least three of the other SSFL reactors. Serious accidents in at least three of the reactors, plus numerous nuclear fires and spills and releases. And there were other dangerous practices on the site. They had a sodium burn pit where they took radioactively contaminant components and illegally burned them in open pits in the open air, Hirsch said. Additionally, workers routinely disposed of barrels of highly toxic waste by blowing them up with shotguns and releasing the contents into the air. That practice was halted in 1994. 94, folks, when two workers were killed and one severely injured as the procedure went terribly wrong. One worker was blasted so forcefully into a rock that all remained was a gruesome petroglyph. Oh my God. So from 59 to 94. And they are telling us there is no contamination. Listen to this. I'm going to keep going. John Pace had only been at SSFL for 4 months 50 years ago this summer when the accident occurred. He was hired as a 20-year-old trainee to learn how to become an atomic reactor operator and mechanic in March 1959. He was let go the following November. Due to his inexperience, Pace said he was often just an observer of many procedures at that time. He is now the last surviving worker to have witnessed the 1959 meltdown and its immediate aftermath, an often chaotic attempt to prevent an even larger disaster as workers compromised their own safety to keep the SRE from overheating into a runaway meltdown. They were only partially successful. Unknown to the workers, the coolant tetraline had leaked into the sodium and gummed up the SRE, causing the fuel rods to overheat. When the reactor was finally shut down permanently 2 weeks after the starting and stopping of power, and then venting the building radiation, 1/3 of the fuel rods ruptured and began melting. Pace said he arrived at work on July 13th for the shift immediately after the accident. He was told that the operators had noticed something was not quite right. They had indications that before there was something a little edgy about the reactor, but they weren't quite sure, he said. Hirsch said the accident actually began on July 12th. Radiation readings were very high. They had a power excursion out an out of control nuclear reaction on July 13th and barely were able to shut the reactor down. Spent a couple of hours trying to figure out what happened and couldn't figure out what happened and started it up again. And inexplicably, it ran until July 26th. The radiation monitors went off scale. They were too hot to measure. Unquote. And they're telling us no radioactive contamination was spread by the fire. They can just go screw off. This is what I'm talking about. We need a truth and reconciliation. We need these people to be able to tell the truth. Pace recalls that part of his job was to check which way the wind was blowing at the SSFL weather station. A few hours after it happened, I found out that the reactor had run away from them and they had to release the gases. After leaking the gases, they discovered the winds were headed down through the San Fernando Valley. All of our families lived there, and all that radiation went over their homes. Unquote. A 2006 report by Dave Lochbaum, the nuclear safety engineer of the Union of Concerned Scientists, determined that up to 30% of the reactor's radioiodine and cesium could have vaporized during the accident. Dave Lochbaum, by the way, is the person who's responsible for the United States buying inadequate containers. It was his decision to not buy the 18-inch thick this 18-inch thick cast to store nuclear waste. So screw you, Dave Lochbaum. After the reactor was shut down 2 weeks later, Pace said the workers started cleaning up the immediate contamination so that they could reach the fuel rods and see what happened. We scrubbed it down with water and sponges, Pace said. We tried mops. They'd get contaminated real quick, and it was getting pretty expensive, so we ended up using Kotex. Wow. All of this was done without protective clothing, beyond coveralls and cotton caps that read, "Your safety is our business, Atomics International." There were no fully enclosed radiation suits with face masks that nuclear workers routinely use today, designed to be dissolved and disposed in after one use. This had never happened before, Pace said, so it was a learning experience of how to clean up contamination. As the workers removed the fuel rods, one broke off. The worker accidentally dropped the broken rod back into the reactor. He realized what had happened and panicked, he said. All he could think of was doing is run. And as he was running, he was pulling alarms and ran out of the building and got outside. Pace said the situation deteriorated from there. Now you have the rod up out of the shield. They were realizing radiation was leaking into the atmosphere. There was one more fuel rod in there. They pulled it out and broke it off and hit the reactor floor. Oh my God. They pulled it out and it broke off and hit the reactor floor. Now you have two broken off in the reactor. I can tell you from the looks on their faces, something was wrong. Unquote. Oh my God, you guys. Looking back with the benefit of 50 years' experience, Pace realized that many mistakes were made. Experts, also with the benefit of hindsight, agreed. In 1979, the Los Angeles Times reported that the Atomic Energy Commission's sponsored analysis determined there had been numerous indications that the SRE was malfunctioning. The report was critical that the operators continued to run the reactor for 2 weeks, and despite the power spike, didn't abate even after operators pushed control rods into the reactor to slow the nuclear reaction. They should never have done what they had done at that time, Pace said. The reactor should have been closed down, but they did it anyways. You didn't want to lose your job. If the reactor is gone, nobody's got work. Wow, that's murderous. The end of 20 years of silence. None of what John Pace described was ever revealed publicly. Atomic International prepared an unclassified report, which was titled SRE Fuel Element Damage on the Accident, and delivered it to the Atomic Energy Commission in 1961. Of the several findings of the report read, in spite of the cladding failure to 13 fuel elements and the release of primary coolant of several thousands of curies of fission product activity, no radiological hazard was presented to the reactor environs. What? Recovery operations were conducted by SRE operating crews working within standard AEC regulations and radiation exposure. That is just an impossibility. God darn it. This is murderous. This is literally murderous. I am not going to read this. I'm going to put the link. This is a long article, but I am telling you what. This is a long article that talks about the murder of humanity by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the greed of these monsters. Absolute greed. It's unbelievable. I'm going to stop sharing. I do not have any idea how long I've been going on here, but I imagine it's been a while. That's the downside to doing this, is I can't figure out how long these videos are when I do it on the Google Plus. Look at my hair. I've been doing these videos now for like, 5 years or something like that. My radio show on Saturday, Heidi Lambert and I, we talked about, look at my glasses. That just drives me crazy with the reflection. Think. What should I do? Take them off. I'm just going to take them off. I can't see myself and I can't see you either, so I guess it doesn't matter. On my radio show this last Saturday, on the Age of Fission radio show, we were talking about how I'm super, I guess it's called, I have unrealistic optimism. That's what Guy McPherson would call it, unrealistic optimism. I read that up. After the Woolsey fire, I think I have ended my unrealistic optimism. I think I'm beginning to admit that they're literally trying to kill us. For them to say no radioactive contamination was released is just complete insanity. The sodium from these reactors is why we're seeing the fires explode, because those reactors have been spewing this sodium all over, and the chemicals all over Southern California for a long time. They have not cleaned it up. They were supposed to clean it up by 2017. They hadn't even started the process. So that's where they're at right now. They hadn't even started the process. This is death by murder. We are having a nuclear war right now. Every nuclear facility, every time I talk to somebody who has a nuclear facility going on around it, almost all of them from the Manhattan Project, they say this is the worst nuclear site in the country. Diablo Canyon is one of the worst sites. Santa Susana, which this story, you guys, you got to see the link. It's in the link. I put it in there. Hanford. There's probably so many I don't even know about. The question is, why are they doing this? I mean, I think I agree with Tom. It's got to be genocide, or what? I mean, I guess it is genocide or omnicide, because they're not just killing humans. They're killing everything. That's what John Goffman said in his books. He was like, if you continue down this path, it is going to create not just genocide, it is going to create omnicide. And they're really attempting to make us believe, oh, it doesn't really hurt you. It's not that harmful. I mean, did you see today in the news? I saw a clip with the Egyptians doing their rowing, saying they're going to Tokyo, Japan, and they're going to have their rowers. I'm like, really? Denial just ain't a river in Egypt. That's what was my comment. Like, you're sending your best athletes to the most contaminated country, actively contaminated country right now. That's like sending people into Chernobyl. I mean, that's literally what it's like. We have people in Chernobyl. We're going to have the Olympics in Chernobyl, folks. How about that? Let's have the next Olympics in Chernobyl. Or I know, at the Santa Susana nuclear site, because guess what? They just burned down all the forests so we could build we could do the Winter Olympics at the Santa Susana nuclear site. How about that idea? Insane bastards. Look, I apologize for cussing so much, but man, when I start talking about this stuff, it really gets to me. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because, as you can see, I think this actually fire was set intentionally by the DOE because there was some litigation going on by that active group that we read about their exposure to nuclear contamination. It was about to go to court, and now all of their evidence is bye-bye. We don't have any evidence. It's burned up. Try to prove your point. And we have the government out there right now saying, oh, no harm to human health. No problem. No, it didn't spread radiation, no radioactivity, no plutonium. There was a plutonium fabrication plant there, but it didn't spread plutonium. It didn't spread this sodium. That's what's the outrage. Right in that article, the article that written in 2009, it actually explains what happens and what we're seeing in Southern California right now in the fires. Why do you think it's catching like a wildfire? Because that is its downwind trajectory. All of the places, the San Fernando Valley, the Malibu, like it's unbelievable. When I read that, I was doing a little bit of research. I actually started researching it. What Libby was telling me that the people in that are in litigation against the Department of Energy in the state for not telling them. I mean, 60% of the kids in Simi Valley have cancer. So people are suing. Like, this is what people have to do whenever they confront these nuclear monsters, because the nuclear liars are just liars. They're murderers. They will kill anybody's children, including their own. It's beyond shocking. But when Libby told me that these people had lost all their evidence, I still was like, wow, and let me look. Intuitively, my first instincts when I heard about the fires was that Trump had them geoengineered to get back at Hollywood because he lost the election. That was my intuitive thing. But I think maybe they got a twofer, man. They got to blow up the lab, and all they had to do was blow up the lab and oh, this is another thing. You know how they say it's starting by wildfire? Check this out. I'm going to screen share. I'm going to go back. 50 years. That's it. Okay, there's another one. Look what it says. Massive Woolsey fire. Let me go back and share this with everyone. Massive Woolsey fire began on contaminated Santa Susana Field Laboratory close to site of partial meltdown. That's what they're saying. Listen to this. This was written November 12th, 2018. Didn't that other day happen on September 12th? You know how these people love numbers. These murderous rats. The tremendously destructive Woolsey fire has been reported to be beginning near the Santa Susana Field Laboratory, but it appears the fire began on the Rocketdyne property itself. CAL FIRE identifies the fire location as E and Alpha Road, a location that is in fact on SSFL. It was recently reported that the Chatsworth Electric substation experienced a disturbance 2 minutes before the fire was reported. But that substation is in fact on SSFL near that location. A photograph posted on Twitter from KCAL's 9's Stu Mundell shows the fire starting near the same location, which is only 1,000 yards away from the site of the 1959 partial meltdown of the sodium reactor. experiment, SRE reactor. Look at this. Look at these fires. Look where they said they're starting. Right there. The location of the smoke plume and fire from the above photo is shown on the pre-fire Google image below. There you go. That's where it is. Apparent Woolsey fire start. This is where the meltdown was. Chatsworth substation, and here's the start of the Woolsey fire. Now, this thing spewed out psh, 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 all kinds of sodium. A report filed with the California Utilities Commission by Southern California Edison states that the Chatsworth substation suffered an outage at 2:22 Thursday, 2 minutes before the Woolsey fire is reported to have begun. The Chatsworth substation is located within a larger Boeing Rocketdyne Santa Susana complex, according to the CPUC document. The electrical substation, marked with a pin in the photo above and the circle in the photos below, enlarged in the last photo, is a few hundred yards to the west where the fire is shown in the Thursday aerial photo as starting, and a few hundred yards to the east of the SRE complex where the reactor suffered its accident. The substation is built in part to provide electricity from the reactor, which was the first reactor to produce commercial electricity for the commercial grid before it became the first such commercial reactor to suffer a partial meltdown. Oh, God. Look at this. That's the sodium reactor. Oh, my God. Though we must wait for the fire authorities to conclude their investigation. It is ironic, they like to use the word ironic, that an electrical substation built for a reactor that melts down 6 decades ago may now be associated with a catastrophic fire that began on the SSFL site that is badly contaminated from the accident and numerous other spills and releases, said Denise Duffield, Associate Director of Physicians for Social Responsibility, Los Angeles. CAL FIRE maps indicate that much of the SSFL is within the fire boundaries. Decades of nuclear and rocket engine testing, including reactor accidents and other toxic spills, have resulted in widespread contamination through SFL's 2,800 facility. This is such an outrage, you guys. This is just beyond comprehension. This is why I had to bring this to you, even though I'm not like the best at making videos. I am going to be buying a Pinnacle CD thing, and my grandson's going to teach me how to work it. So hopefully I'll be able to make better videos. But in the meantime, I want to thank all my subscribers for listening to me and for following and for caring about our planet enough that you're willing to watch me do this super non-professional video and show you these stories and do your own research. I mean, what's our answer? We're already contaminated. I think we need a truth and reconciliation. I am sick of the lies. There literally in Southern California, there's a medical emergency with people from nuclear contamination. And it is that story about why, because of the sodium reactors causing that when the water hits it, it explodes. This is why we have these explosions. This is why it's literally an explosion of fire. And you know what's really sad? It's really obvious. I'm not even a science type, and it's obvious. I'm just not stupid. I just refuse to lie to people about the danger that we're in. It's just beyond comprehension. So anyways, you guys, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I don't know why I feel compelled to come and connect these dots like I do and what good that's going to do, because I don't think they're going to change any of it, but I guess it gives me a bit of solace to talk to my YouTube community and say, hi, Tommy Ackerman. TJ Washington, hi. You guys are pretty consistent. George Duke, hey. My little YouTube friends, and you make me feel comforted just knowing that you are willing to accept listening to these ideas. But I think it was intentional. Lord, we're living through some rough times. How we're changing. That's the thing. We're coming through to the other side. We're still in the dark, but we're on our way through the tunnel, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. And hopefully, some of us will survive. So that's my goal. Anyways, sorry about the glasses, you guys. I can't figure out how to like not make this television screen thing not reflect my glasses. So I've figured couldn't figure it out. If I sit over here, that works. But if I sit over here, that works. That's kind of a weird thing. So it's going to be like this. So put your courage feet on, you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. I'm going to be posting my Spreaker show. I'm finishing reading that Dr. Caldecott book. Boy, do I regret doing that because I'm only getting in like an hour a week. And last week I didn't get that one in because my car got towed. Right as I was posting it up, I ran out to get my car and they took my car and I came back and my computer ditched my readings. So I was like, okay, no reading this week. So anyways, talk to you guys later. Ciao.